Russia has once again brought back the numerous talks and reports that previously existed after it was revealed that Western governments, especially the United States, are now conducting state-sponsored pharmaceutical experiments on Africans and setting up new bioweapon laboratories in African countries. In 2023, talking to Piers Morgan's show, Mr. Bassam reminds people how in 2013, Israel performed castrations to unsuspecting women of Ethiopian descent against their consent.
But even when Ethiopian people were immigrated to Israel, Ethiopian Jews, women then report 2013, that's not like 50 years ago. They reported that they were given against their consent and without their knowledge contraceptive shots so they wouldn't reproduce because they are the wrong color.
Then comes the whole Bill Gates identification project to newborn babies in Kenya.
Leo wasi, niaje, sijui kaa hii kitu itanileta kwa ngori, but mimi naambia tu kweli. Wallahi amkeni. Kwanza wachana na maskamas, wachana na wezi for the time being. Tuulizeni tu president wetu, ofisi ya Bill Gates inafanya nini hapa wasi?
Now, it even gets worse. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is continuing its global push to support its so-called government-backed digital ID programs, and this time setting its sight on Kenya, where it will advise the government on that country's Maisha Namba digital ID initiative that is currently under development.
Ofisi ya Bill Gates anafanya nini hapa Kenya? Umsafai kuwa hapa. Waseniko serious.
So, according to a Kenyan news agency, Gates' role is assisting the Kenyan government in its development, and the rollout of Maisha Namba was announced after a recent series of the closed-door meetings with Kenyan President William Ruto.
Probably. Human experiments zimeshaanza. Asa walifanya the same. Walifungua ofisi huko Congo. Walifungua ofisi South Africa. Asa ndio walileta ukimwi. And it is recorded.
But listen, I just told you in a very nice way. Now let me just put it blatantly to you. The program targets the birth of new babies. So once you have your baby, before your baby leaves the hospital, you no longer get a paper birth certificate, but then you get a digital one that is somehow implanted somewhere on somebody's body.
Lakini wacheni tu hapa kidogo. This is coming, and it is coming in November. Bill Gates and his office, they are not supposed to be here.
The digital ID, which has been a big problem to us for a very long time, is now on a testing mode for the next 2 months. I have been assured by all the stakeholders, led by the ministries concerned, that by December, we will be able to launch digital ID, where every Kenyan don't have to carry any paper, plastic or otherwise, as an ID, that they should be able to be identified digitally using their iris or their fingerprints, and we can transact without the necessity of people struggling to identify who they are.
Bioweapon laboratories in Africa. Russia intelligence now reveals United States has shifted their bioweapons labs from Ukraine to Africa and have even begun conducting experiments, something that lands you a life sentence in the United States.
I wanted to ask you about the bioweapons labs that are in these African countries, because you know very well what's going on with the Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act that you drafted there. Why are they putting these labs in those countries?
Well, it's very simple in try to circumvent the Biological Weapons Convention and my Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act of 1989 that provides for life in prison. We have a BSL-4 in Guinea. We have one at the capital there, one in Liberia, Monrovia, and another one at Kenema in Sierra Leone. And they all do this dual-use offensive, defensive, biological warfare work. Guinea is never been a party to the Biological Weapons Convention. Liberia has never been a party. Sierra Leone is a party, but given the disturbances over there, I'm sure no one's been paying attention to what's been going on in these labs.
The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation continues to analyze the military biological activities of the United States in Ukraine and other countries. During the last briefing, we drew your attention to the transfer of unfinished Ukrainian projects to the territory of other states. It was shown that African states fell into the zone of increased interest of the United States. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, Uganda. At the same time, the customers from the American government are the Threat Reduction Office of the Ministry of Defense, DITRA, the National Security Agency, and the U.S. State Department. Today, using the example of Nigeria, we would like to show that the stated goals of projects aimed at developing public health do not correspond to reality. Thus, the American military department claims that biological projects in Nigeria are aimed at combating HIV and AIDS. However, the effectiveness of this program raises serious questions. Despite the annual increase in funding, totaling about $100 million, the HIV incidence rate has remained virtually unchanged and is currently the same as in 2009. The mortality rate among HIV-infected people also shows negative dynamics. At the same time, the number of Nigerian citizens who received antiviral therapy with Gilead drugs has steadily increased over the entire funding period and reached 60% of the total number of patients. Let me remind you that this pharmaceutical company is affiliated with the Pentagon and tested its drugs on citizens of Ukraine. This allows us to conclude that American pharmacological drugs, the steady increase in consumption of which in Nigeria is recorded by statistics, do not have a real therapeutic effect, and Nigerian citizens are used as a free clinical base. Thus, under the guise of public health issues on the African continent, the Pentagon solved its own problems. It monitors the biological situation, collects and exports samples of infectious disease agents and their vectors. This activity continues to this day.